Farmers and technology developers are constantly faced by challenges of those who oppose genetically modified crops, despite the overwhelming evidence in support of the safe use of these technologies. Critics of biotechnology would oftentimes go to extreme lengths to resist innovations and deny farmers and consumers the enormous benefits of biotechnology. Let's begin this edition of the program by sending a strong message to opponents of genetically modified crops. The future is bright for biotechnology, and we urge you to come on board, be a lover and not a fighter. It's good to have you join us on the program. I am Ifeanyi Okafor. It is easier to destroy than to create. When it takes seconds or minutes to destroy, the process of creation is painstaking and a careful, deliberate, and meticulous process of weaving ideas and practical efforts towards positive endeavors. The opponents of GM crops are not comfortable with the process of crop breeding and manipulation of a plant's genetic material. While genetic engineering involves adjusting DNA of plants with desirable traits or cross-pollinating related organizations, the conventional or natural practice will be to radiate the seeds with chemicals against pests and weeds. Now let's see this feature. Genetically modified organisms and products derived from them are obtained through systematic techniques where the genetic material is altered in a way that does not occur naturally, as in through mating or through natural recombination. Typically speaking, no living organism meets this description because genetic modification is literally the essential feature of life. Genetically modified organisms are derived using enzymes and techniques found within nature itself. Researchers discovered that there could be movement of genes, similar with what happens in life, where the product of a male and female companion adopts the genes of the parent. Scientists use their own genetic makeup to produce new varieties and hybrid. Scientists can add genes that have useful or high characteristics. GMOs are safe, they are better for the environment, and they are an important key to a sustainable future. All over the world, the outcome of documented and painstaking research is the adoption and utilization of such materials for advancement of knowledge, social and economic growth, and to enhance and uplift the lives of the people exponentially. Little wonder from Europe to America and Asia to the Middle East, there have been tremendous progress technologically and scientifically. Unfortunately, major parts of Africa still wallow in abject poverty and inexcusable retardation and underdevelopment due to the inability to move from research to utilization and commercialization. Perhaps what the continent needs is to borrow a leaf from the Asian tigers and take its own destiny in its hands. Africa can take the bold step, and maybe just then we can guarantee equal opportunities with the technologically advanced nations of the world. The debate on genetically modified or conventional use seeds for now may have some spectators, but GM foods cannot be described as unsafe, as there have been no confirmed health problems from the stable of the opponents of the GM crops. They are not valid and do not come with any empirical evidence. Okay, up next is our views from the streets.
The very first step about GMO, introducing GMO into the system, is proper sensitization. I believe if sensitization is done in the right manner and through the right medium, because GMO is actually I think the advantage is more to people at the grassroots level than people because we know that a lot of people who are more industrialized might not really have the time. So I think it's more for the people at the grassroots. So if the right medium is used for the sensitization, I'm sure people will do the right thing. They'll go use the right kind of things to cultivate whatever thing they want to cultivate. As it is right now, GMO is the way forward, if you ask me. I'll tell you, because looking at the economic situation, our food and nutrition level, and every other thing, we find out we see a lot of deficient kids on the road. If people are sensitized properly and, like I said, using the right kind of medium that is acceptable to the grassroots and, an easy way that everybody is comfortable with. It's not expensive, provided it's an inexpensive medium, provided it's something that is inexpensive, it's very convenient, it's comfortable, it doesn't require too much space, doesn't require too much of everything. I'm sure everybody will key into it, and I don't think there's a problem. After all, the most important thing we have to do is to encourage and to distribute food nationally.
Biotech in agriculture, I think it's a really good one because the world itself is going up, this is the 21st century, and most of the things we do are technologically driven. And if those biotech of a thing will help in yielding more, in creating more yield for farmers and reducing the labor force with the help with the improvement in agricultural engineering, such as the tractor, the plow, and the rest. I think it should be a good one because the population of the world is really growing day by day. And then the yield, natural resources, as we all know, are depreciating daily due to man's activities. So the agricultural sector, being technologically driven, will be of a good development for the population and both for the farmers. On GMO products, though, I'm a little bit on the fence on it because, yes, in as much as it makes products to be good and then pest resistance and the rest, there are some sects that are still saying that it creates cancer, though that has not been proven. And then the idea of not being able to combine GMO, a farmer who plants this GMO, who goes into GMO farming, won't be able to do normal farming. What I learned is that if you are let's say you're planting tomatoes here, you won't be able to plant corn. And in Nigeria, we like doing this mixed crop farming of a thing. So if more research could be taken, will be carried out so that some of the, to create less, to make the fruits or the products much more safer for the population, I think it will be a good one.
It will really help the Nigerian farmers and helping them in the sense that they will not lose their investments as per when they plant their crops, and due to most of the time the insect kills the crops, and the flood damages their crops when they plant it, so it does not help them to be able to harvest them and sell them, and in that process they lose a lot of money, and if the government could bring this into it and support them and help them out, it will really make the farmers be able to have much of their investment returns to them, and also make food be available, because when food is not available, when the farmers cannot produce or harvest their crops, definitely there will be shortage of food in the society, and of course there will be increase of the cost of food, but I think I support it though. I think I support it.
So whatever it is, we have to go into it to know what is there. We cannot say whether we are for again, whether it is for good or for bad. We must acquire that knowledge. If people can pay so much money, do so much investment to go to the moon, for what purpose? How much more GMO that is here with us to enhance the quality and quantity of products? So whatever is there that whether it is positive or negative, we have to be part of those people researching into that field to make sure that we are not told, but we are part of those who knows what is in there in the GMO as an innovation. That's the way I see it. We just have to involve ourselves. I wish that Africa will come together and have a center to research into these innovations so that we can collectively enjoy the benefits and collectively tackle the disadvantages should there be any. So GMO generally is not something that we can ignore, whether it is for good or for bad. If people can go into nuclear production and endangering themselves and neighboring countries and the world at large, much less GMO that is being test run to see how they can improve the loss of humanity. So we have to go into that. That's the way I look at it. We have to go into it and ensure that whether it is for good or for bad, we have to have that collective knowledge.
Absolutely fabulous. Now that is speaking positively to the future, and deservedly so. We'll take a short break now, and Biotechnology in Focus continues shortly.
Did you know that genetically modified organisms, GMOs, are safe and do not pose any risk, hazard, or danger to human, animal, and the environment? Neither do they cause cancer, infertility, sterility, tumor, or any adversity. There is safe use of GMO drugs like insulin, vaccine, rapid diagnostic test kits for malaria, HIV, hepatitis, and so on. The safety of GMOs is certified by the World Health Organization, WHO, Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO, European Food Safety Authority, EFSA, the National Academies of Science globally, the Royal Society, UK, and over 110 prize Nobel laureates. GMOs are safe, effective, and certified by MBMA in Nigeria.
This message is brought to you by the Nigeria chapter of the Open Forum on Agricultural Biotechnology OFAB, supported by the National Biotechnology Development Agency NABDA.
Good to have you back. In this edition of the program, I spoke to Dr. Issoufou Kollo of the AATF. He has been our guest on an earlier edition of the program, Biotechnology in Focus. Now here he talks about some negative comments and erroneous claims on an alleged importation of genetically modified products without the knowledge of the regulatory authorities.
There is absolutely not. Nobody has brought any modified genetic cultivar in this country without knowledge of the Nigerian biosafety agencies. None. If the guy is found, the person will go straight to jail according to Nigerian law. Absolutely none. These are just rumors spread everywhere. Anybody who wants to bring some genetically modified crops, even if the crop is in transit, the Nigerian Biosafety Authority has to give its green light. So, otherwise the guy went against the Nigerian law.
That is it.
That's it.
All right.
And secondly, I would like to say, because we use in our gene, in our work on cowpea, we use the gene Cry1AB. These people are saying that the Cry1AB is a failure technology because there are some insect resistance about it in South Africa. So is it a failure? How does it get a failure? When we want to deploy, we know since 1920s, even before the birth of biotechnology, 70 years before birth of biotechnology, we know that resistant genes are not eternal. The same way, entomologists, people who work with insects, or even any medical doctor, they will tell you, insects resist to poison. DDT, you got resistance in house flies, resistance in mosquitoes against DDT. So we know resistant genes are not eternal. So we came up with, if you have a resistant material, how do you deploy it? You came up with a strategy management so that the gene can live longer time. In South Africa, what happened in certain areas, farmers were not taught the strategy to manage properly their crops. In those areas, yeah, there was some resistance. people have observed some resistance. If you go to KwaZulu-Natal area in South Africa where farmers have been trained, there has not been any resistance against this gene. The same gene is used on maize in Spain, in the hot spot of European border. For 16 years, up for now, this year is 17 years, there is no resistance. It is holding. It is not a failed technology. They are lying. There is another question also. They want to smear CSIRO. You don't know CSIRO. This is the #1 research institution in Australia. In 2005, Australia was working on what is called now pea, not beans. So they are working on peas, real peas. So they put, you know, this insect which destroy beans in storage. So they found a gene, weevils. They found a gene which controls these insects perfectly. But any GM crop has to go to a battery of tests. A battery of tests to see if they are safe for human consumption. So in the test, in the early tests about allergenic test is a must for any GM crop. Is a must. So they found out that the peas, the transgenic peas, they have developed elicit some immunological response. But, so they stop it. They stop the work. That was in 2005. Some people, some research agencies said to CSIRO, no, you stop the work quickly. You didn't look at the immunoglobulin, which are specific to allergenicity. You should continue. But CSIRO is stopped. So there is a group, the Medical University of Vienna, a group at the Medical University of Vienna in Australia, who repeated the experiment several times and found that the same reaction Australians have seen, both transgenic and non-transgenic beans and peas cause the same reactions. So it was not specific to their peas. It is a cross. So they had to stop quickly. So this is when we want to develop PBR cowpea. CSIRO scientists are the only one in the world who master the technology to transform cowpea. This is why we include them. Now people want to smear them to say it is a failed CSIRO, the technology, the legume is not trustworthy. So it does not anything to do. It is, they stop it at one point because it is until they understand the phenomenon, what is going on. And this is the proper science attitude. And CSIRO still is one of the most respected scientific body in the world.
Similarly, President of the Biotech Society of Nigeria, Professor Benjamin Obi, also spoke extensively on the views of opponents of GMOs, where he analyzed the fears and claims, calling rather for a more practical assessment based on empirical evidence on ground. Hear this.
The issue you raised, the specific issue you raised about GMOs, is an integral part of modern biotechnology. So there has been some specific controversies, but people need to be enlightened, the public. And once they become enlightened, then they will absorb the technology and then broadcast it to others. So as a matter of fact, you see that Nigeria just passed its own biosafety bill into law. And this was during the last regime of President Goodluck Jonathan. And that law led to the emergence of the National Biosafety Management Agency, which is the competent authority to regulate GMOs in Nigeria, and they've been doing that. Their main role is to ensure that GMOs are regulated in Nigeria. So about acceptance, people accepting the technology or not accepting the technology, it's a matter of time when they are properly enlightened. Like we could be aware that in Italy, for instance, there is a court case that has tried to say that, in fact, that case has set a milestone to encourage people and let them know that GMOs are not all that unsafe as people tend to believe. As a matter of fact, what we are experiencing now is just maybe at the beginning phases. When we have the technology more domesticated and the utilization of the technology becomes much more in focus in Nigeria, people will accept it. They will know that maybe all those risks that people have been talking about, they are all perceived. They've not yet been proven by scientific evidence. People just assume that this technology, GM products are unsafe. Like you mentioned, in the US, for instance, GMs have been consumed for over 20 years. But of course, it's also regulated. That is why there's regulation. We want to ensure that both those people that are against or for, people need to make informed decisions about what they want to take, whether they want to take it. That's why the issue of labeling is also important. So GMO labeling, so people have a free choice to decide whether they want to consume GMOs or they don't want to consume GMOs. But at the same time, there is no scientific evidence that has indicated GMOs to the contrary, that they are really unsafe or that they cause cancer. You know, whichever part of the divide you look at it, people are there in business, both for those for pro and those anti. I understand they are also in business. So you may want to bake your cake from one aspect or the other, but I can assure you from the body of scientific evidence that is available that there is no concrete empirical data to really say that GMOs are unsafe and therefore they should not be used. So all this boils down to public enlightenment. That's why we've always had conferences. We've had several public lectures just to enlighten the members of the public. And of course, if you follow through the process of GMO development, it's a technology that is very well regulated from the laboratory phase up to field release, and then of course commercialization. So every aspect of it is being regulated. And like I told you before, the Biosafety Management Agency, the National Biosafety Management Agency, is the competent authority. If you've heard recently, I think 2 days ago I read a report that GMS that was brought into Nigeria at the borders was sent back by customs and National Biosafety Management Agencies. They regulate it. They are there to ensure that people are safe. They are not there to bring in. They are also Nigerians and they are patriotic. The work of the agency is to ensure that things are done properly. When I say properly, is that to safeguard the health of people that consume it, to safeguard also the health of the environment. So there is nothing to as if they are maybe promoting unsafe technologies. Everybody is aware of we are all aware of our responsibilities to the public in Nigeria. And of course, you know, Nigeria is not alone in this technology. It's all something that cuts across worldwide, globally. And we cannot bring unsafe technologies to Nigeria. And therefore, the regulation that is also in place to ensure that what comes to our table, what comes to our environment, what is left behind even after a very long period of time is actually safe, and it will not compromise the safety of our environment.
Now it's a wrap on the program, and I believe I have been able to convince you beyond reasonable doubt. If it is a yes vote, then I'm expecting your gifts next time when you join us again. Bye-bye.